Hello and welcome into the Rundown with Caleb and Casey here on a Tuesday afternoon. Caleb Polking here, as always, joined by my esteemed partner, Casey Schischler. Casey Schischler, the Iowa State University Cyclone varsity football team, 6-0 for the first time since before Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is a big deal, man.
Yeah.
6-0, undefeated clones. Also top 10 on like everything right now.
Yeah, basically in everything school. We're ranked higher than Alabama in football, and we're ranked right alongside them in basketball. And we're also the only school to be top 10 ranked in men's basketball, women's basketball, and football. And throw in there, we got a top 5 men's cross-country team as well.
It's soon to be top 5 wrestling squad as well.
Yep.
I mean, it's across the board, dude. Talk about blue bloods, man. Tell your kids about the blue-blooded Iowa State Cyclones in the early 2020s.
We're the biggest factor that if we don't commit here, they just wouldn't be top 15, let alone top 25 and everything.
And who would have known, going back to, Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, Big 12 about to be relegated. Now we've got NIL. How can Iowa State pay for players? Still, somehow, this team is the one team in the nation, one program in the nation with all three in the top 10 of the big sports right there. And like you said, cross-country dynasty as well. Always been good in cross-country. Yep. Well, we've got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah. We
will do our normal recap and preview for Iowa State football. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about the Big 12. We'll do our picks. Is it Caleb Tober again? Are we back? Are we so back, or did we just kind of like flip the script this week a little bit?
Yeah, I think we just flipped it,
Yeah.
We split almost every game. I got bailed by some bad reffing calls, though. I will say that. Colorado should have got a PI.
K-State game, yeah.
USC had a couple calls here and there that I don't know shouldn't have led to an overtime, but it is what it is. Just got to roll with the punches.
We'll do our weekly 3 for 3, and then basketball season right around the corner. We're going to do our updated Big 12 basketball preseason standings. The actual preseason poll came out this past week. I know Casey has a lot of thoughts. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's start with Iowa State football taking down West Virginia. Clones up to number 9 now in the AP. 28-16 victory in Morgantown against the Mountaineers. I went through and looked at the different polls throughout history for Iowa State. This is the second highest, technically third highest AP ranking of all time for Iowa State. In 2020, they got up to 8 in the regular season. 2021, they were 7 during the preseason. So this is the second highest regular season, third highest ever. In terms of the CFP, they got up to number 6 in 2020. But CFP has not come out yet, so, just keep on winning. Eventually, you can hopefully get it to that point as well. But, big win for Iowa State. I had a really bad feeling about this game, Casey. I did. I did not feel good about it at all. And a rough start again. You had 2 more linebackers get hurt. Had like the 8th-string walk-ons in there. But Iowa State found a way to regroup and gets a 12-point victory in a hostile environment during this West Virginia Coal Rush game.
Yeah, and really after that first quarter, it wasn't really in doubt. We go down 7-0 early. Once again, we're struggling with first quarters. We got to figure that out because you can't do that in the long run. Or if we do get into playoff football, you can't do that at all against these powerhouse schools. Settled in that nice, though, made it 14-7, 14-10 at half. And then, man, these defensive changes are just insane. In my eyes, we didn't give up any points in the second half. We gave up a garbage time touchdown with a minute left when we were up 18. So these defensive changes have just been absolutely insane. Shout out John Haycock because, wow, what a job he has done. There's a lot of pressure on this defense, especially when the offense doesn't score right out the gate and you're playing these high-powered teams. But he's finding ways to keep them down. And I think Iowa State's like top 3 in points against.
I think you're right. Yeah. Scoring defense, passing yards per game, rushing yards is not. I think it might be like inside the top 30, but yeah, passing yards per game, defensively, points against, really, really good. If you would have told me before the game that Iowa State, West Virginia would score the first touchdown. Kyle Conradi would miss a field goal on Iowa State's first drive of the game. And then you'd have 2 more linebackers go down. I would have told you Iowa State would have lost this game because everything we talked about last week was, get out to a quick start, score first, take the crowd out of it, and make Garrett Green beat you. And it was essentially the adverse of that in this game. But, again, you talk about John Haycock, and, man, his adjustments are unbelievable. At one point in the game, your linebackers were Cooper Ebel, who's been good, but he wasn't, before the season, he was supposed to be probably a second stringer, right? Caleb Bacon, Will McLaughlin in there, all those guys. And then Rylan Barnes and Bo Goodwin. And these are all Iowa natives from, Class 1A schools. But, yeah, John Haycock and Eli Rashid and these defensive coaches find a way to get the absolute most out of their guys, which is just so impressive each and every week. He and Mauser both have to be up for, those Broyles coordinator awards.
Yeah, definitely. And I think shout out to the guys that really stepped up because that's tough to do. You're on the road in situations like that. And throughout the season, we've seen it. But most importantly in this game, you're on the road. It's a great environment in Morgantown. And they've got their blackout unis. Everyone's kind of pumped up. It's a night game. And you still find a way to go out there and shut them down constantly. It was a little iffy in the first half, But, we just keep saying it. That second half adjustment was all they needed to just clean sweep a victory.
Yep, without a doubt. Offensively, I thought things, after that first drive, like we talked about, after the first quarter-ish, things really started to click. I think this offensive line is playing really well right now, playing at a really high level. Jalen Travis, the guys on that left side, I think Dylan Barrett's playing a lot better. And he went down, at one point.
Not season-ending, though. They have confirmed.
Yes, okay, I think I saw that as well. But his backup, Trevor Bohr, came in, and he played really well. I think he came in, and immediately the next play, Carson Hansen had his first touchdown, and it was a wide open gap on that left side. It was awesome. That's, we haven't seen that from Iowa State in a long, long time, if ever, where you've got offensive lines that just make holes like that, and they're doing that right now. So shout out Ryan Clanton and company, and I think Mauser's calling really good games too. I think he's really opening up the field, and last year, we talked about it all year long. It was man, you try and establish this inside zone, and it doesn't work. And they have finally leaned on, the pass-to-run strategy, right? The pass-to-run scheme, where you use these really good receivers to set up that run game. And all of a sudden, you're not only a really good passing team, but they're running the football at a high level too.
Yeah, definitely. And shout out Carson Hansen. Fantastic game from here. 20 touches, 96 yards, 3 tutties as well. Really just kind of riding the hot hand of the running backs each week. We've seen Hansen, Jackson, and Sama all lead us in both rushing yards and rushing touchdowns at some point this season. And obviously it comes at the cost. Abu Sama's not having the season we would have liked him to have, and it's kind of disappointing, and you worry about that in the future. What does this mean, for the portal and stuff like that? But when we got our 2 and 3 and even our 4 guys, Dylan Lee's getting time here and there, when our guys can still step up and have close to 100 yards and a couple tutties, you love it every single day.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I've seen a lot of Iowa State fans, kind of complaining why is Abu Sama not playing, all this stuff. I would be willing to bet there will be a game, at least one game this year, where he plays a crucial role and has a couple of those big-time, home run hitting plays like Tim Brando likes to talk about on the broadcast, which, by the way, that call, just his broadcast on Saturday, woof. There were some, I don't know if you watched or if you listened to much of what he was saying during the game, but he had one of his game on. He had one of his not so good calls. That's besides the point. I think Iowa State fans have been very spoiled by having 2 really good running backs in David Montgomery and Breece Hall over the last decade, and now you just kind of expect that. But there's nothing wrong with having 3 good running backs where, a lot of the time, 2 of the guys are going to take a back seat to the one guy who just, has a really good day like Carson Hansen had, and then Jalen Jackson the previous week. It's going to happen like that. Abu Sama is going to have a game where he's kind of that guy as well. It's just the way it works, and it's better for all of their longevity.
Definitely, and you got no guys going down with injury, and even if you do have someone go down with injury, you have an experienced guy coming in who has at one point been a leader on this team. So there's no real worries from me. Whatever happens, whatever, maybe. And if Sama has a down year, oh well. He had a great year last year. still a young guy, still a sophomore. He can improve over this offseason, and if he takes another step up, he may cement himself as an even better player next season. We'll see.
Absolutely. Iowa State defeats West Virginia 28-16. My favorite stat from this one, 7 straight road victories for Iowa State. Now, regular season, because you could factor in that bowl game against Memphis. 7 straight regular season road victories. The last time they lost a regular season road game was that Oklahoma game of last year, which feels like forever ago. It was well over a year ago. That's an insanely impressive stat. They've been really good on the road these last couple seasons. Let's move on to UCF here. Iowa State favored by 14 in a 6:30 p.m. kick against
Correct.
The Space Unites.
Space Unites of Central Florida.
4th night game in a row for Iowa State, wearing the black uniforms. Casey's not a fan of it.
No, I mean, I get it, but I feel like we've done how many games in a row with unique uniforms?
Alternates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what
I
you
like
mean.
our homes. We've seen them once.
The red ones? Yeah. What did we wear against Arkansas State? Was that an alternate as well?
No, we
might have worn
red,
the red ones.
white.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Haven't seen these gold pants we introduced either.
True. Yeah, I want to wear those on the road too, with like the white, maybe like white gold,
or
even red, white, gold.
I thought this game would have been a fantastic one to pull out the black helmet red jerseys that they've occasionally
the Texas
worn
ones from last year. Yeah, that's always a good one. Maybe Texas Tech for that one.
Yeah, I just feel like going white out into blackout's a little much.
Sure.
Yeah. And we're still early in the season. Like how many home games we got left? We got at least 3.
Only one true road game the rest of the way, that Utah game.
We got 4 home games counting UCF.
Okay, yeah. And I would argue at this point, this is probably the easiest of the remaining 4. I think Cincinnati beat UCF. So,
yep.
The Space Unites, they've really fallen off these last few weeks. At one point, they had the second best odds to win the league. Early there, kind of after non-con, when they beat TCU, it was like the first Big 12 game of the year. But they've lost 3 straight. And another thing that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is these portal issues they're having where guys are just leaving mid-season. They've had at least 3 or 4 guys enter the portal.
Yeah, definitely. And it's getting even crazier with Gus Malzahn just today saying that quarterback Jackery Brown will take first-team reps this week after they benched KJ Jefferson during the Cincinnati game. So that's a true freshman we're going to get this Saturday, likely. He's the likely starter as of right now. Nothing's confirmed. And I thought we both were kind of in the idea that KJ Jefferson, he might be legit. Like, he's a big frame quarterback, dual threat, but, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions is just not good enough in the Big 12. So I understand what Malzahn's doing, but, yeah, this team has just not been where I felt like we really thought they would be.
Yeah, I agree. And at one point, you and I were both pretty high on them as well. After they started out 3-0 and offense was really churning, it seemed like they had an identity, and things just fell off right away. It's been really weird what's been going on down there in Orlando. But yeah, I think that I love this spot for Iowa State. I think this is another team that matchup wise I think is probably not super in Iowa State's advantage because they do average 268 yards per game on the ground. Iowa State's been better in the passing defense this year, right, with this depleted linebacking core. But sounds like Caleb Brzezina is supposed to be back, which is huge. Jacob Ellis did return in that West Virginia game as well at one point. Cooper Ebel went down for a little bit, came back. So if you have all 3 of those guys playing, I think they should be okay. This rushing attack is not as good as West Virginia's was going into that game. So, yeah, I'm not super concerned here about the matchup. I think this could be, you have it down on your slate as well, a little bit of a sleeper game, a little bit of a trap game. You're coming off a big win in Morgantown, coming back home. Can't sleep through this one, right? I have confidence that, the culture right now in the locker room is at a really, really maybe an all-time high in the Campbell era where they are focused and they know the task ahead. They're not going to, they can't be looking past anybody, right? Because everybody at this point isn't looking past Iowa State, right?
Definitely.
That's circled on the schedule. So, Yeah, I'm confident in this game for Iowa State. I think being favored by 14 is about right, and then you got to bye, and then you head into potentially one of the biggest games of the year, hosting Texas Tech the following week.
Definitely. And I think the bye helps so much here that you're not looking past this game because they're coming into your place. You know, you've got the alternates. You've got everything going right for you right now. This is one of the perfect times at home to slip up and make a mistake. But you have nothing to look forward to, nothing to look past right now for at least another week. So it's like, let's just focus on this game, hammer everything out because – you know, you get a situation where if we had Texas Tech the week after this at home, you start looking up to that game because, well, we got to prep. This is a Texas Tech team that likes to put up like 40 points a game. So we got to start getting ready for that. And you kind of incorporate some of that into the UCF. And all of a sudden, UCF's up 20-0 on you. And you're like, oh,
boy,
we really didn't take them seriously enough.
Yeah.
So, you know, with the bye week, it's going to be huge. No worries from these guys. You just focus and practice. You do what you've been doing, and you ride whoever the hot hand at running back is.
I would agree. Yep. I think that will do it for our weekly Iowa State football talk, Casey, unless you have anything else to hit on that front.
I think that's all.
All right. Go Clones. Get to 7-0. Get that bye week, and then maybe that Texas Tech game could be a prime time. I know that the slate that weekend is pretty solid. I don't know if that will be a game day type of game. I think Ohio State, Penn State play that weekend.
I think our only game day chance is that it's got to be the K-State game. Farmageddon.
Yeah. And the issue with that is, like, that could be a great matchup, but that's the rivalry weekend where there's insane games going on.
True.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably the best matchup to go. But, yeah, go Cyclones. Get to 7-0. Let's take a look at the weekly Big 12 segment here. Kind of a boring week in the Big 12 last week. I think the biggest thing was that Arizona State win against Utah on Friday night. Utah, big news out of Salt Lake City today, or was that yesterday? Cam Rising.
Yesterday.
Yeah, Cam Rising is expected to be out for the rest of the year, which means Isaac Wilson will now be the QB1 for the Utes. The wheels are falling off the wagon really fast over there in Salt Lake City, and this is a team that everybody kind of penciled in as the expected Big 12 championship winner in year one, expected college football playoff team. And the season is really falling off the rails right now.
No, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. I forget whose principal that is, but
yeah, I don't know either. It's a great quote though. Yes.
Yeah, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And that's what happened for Utah. They were the consensus to not only make the Big 12 championship game, but also to win it all. Who is it?
Murphy's Law. Yes.
I should have known that. I'm actually kicking myself for that. Oh, well, but...
Oops. Yeah. Sorry to... I'm sure people listening right now are just cringing.
That's from Interstellar. Yeah. That's why.
Oh, good point.
But yeah... Like we were talking about, Utah was penciled in as the best Big 12 team. They were running their mouth on Twitter. The fan base was, we're going to come in and walk through. And we had kind of mentioned, that just doesn't happen in the Big 12. We've seen it before. And at the end of the day, everything has gone wrong. Their QB's injured. They haven't played very well. They're ranked and still losing at home. They're losing matchups they're well favored by. Nothing is going right for Utah. And now not only are you possibly out of the Big 12 championship scene, you're hanging on for a bowl game at this point.
Yeah, they really are. And then on the flip side, how about the Arizona State Sun Devils and young head coach Kenny Dillingham leading this team to a 5-1 start? I think they were picked last or second to last in the Big 12, and then BYU was picked last.
Who's undefeated.
What a crazy conference this year. And then you had, Oklahoma State picked in the top 5, Kansas in the top 5, Utah picked number 1. It's like this has been an insane year in the Big 12 conference. Cam Scadaboo, how about that guy?
Fantastic.
What a beast.
What an absolute dog.
Some of those runs.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, you can't replicate some of those. Even Ashton Jeanty can't do some of those things, but Ashton Jeanty's doing better things. So.
Yeah, you're right. Scadaboo does it better than Caleb Johnson on the east side of the state here in Iowa. They're a fun, frisky team right now, the Arizona State squad, with Kenny Dillingham, young head coach. It's a fun story. I'm having a good time following along down there, and I don't think they're going to contend for a Big 12 championship. I think they're kind of outside that Tier 1 right now. But, I mean, and they do have to play. They go to K-State and then BYU back-to-back at Arizona to finish it off. So they have a tough slate up ahead.
But if they can win out, they're in off those games alone.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they should absolutely be in a bowl game as well. We talked about Cincinnati over UCF. Cincinnati kind of a sneaky middle-of-the-pack team right now. I don't know if you take much from it, whatever.
No, they're not bad.
No, BYU with a statement victory. That was a big prove-it game. We talked about it last week. Statement victory for the Cougars in Provo.
Yeah. Is Arizona just that bad, though, is the other side of it.
That's very possible, too. I mean, 3-3 right now.
Yeah. I felt like they haven't been as fantastic. That 1-2 connection everyone talked about, Fafita and McMillan, just was fantastic in weeks 1 and 2, and then nothing happened when they started playing Big 12. So, there's a lot to take from these games, but at the same time, you don't want to take too much from them, and you start penciling people into spots that they shouldn't be, and they won't be by the end of the season.
And then K-State, we kind of alluded to it a little bit ago, finds a way to take down the Buffaloes at Folsom Field in Colorado. A little bit of it was a little bit controversial there at the end as the Buffaloes lost.
Definitely.
These late-game heroics are crazy from the Buffaloes. I mean, just the stuff they do at the end. And
they've got to be the best 4-minute team in football.
I think so, too. I mean, with the talent they have, the skill guys and Shadur Sanders, they have the ability to just move the ball whenever they want to. I think sometimes it just takes a little bit too long. But, yeah, K-State finds a way. I think, this Kansas State team, that BYU game is still definitely a stinger, but they found their way back, and now a 5-1 squad here. I think they're right there with Iowa State, BYU, Texas Tech as kind of the 4 top teams in the conference right now.
Definitely, yeah. As much as I wanted Colorado to come away with that game, Kansas State does look good. I got to hand it to them for the first time this season. That Kansas State team, they're hanging in there. Avery Johnson, solid quarterback from time to time. Did you see the photo? A fan handed him his phone, and he took a selfie with him and the fans when he was on the bench.
I think I did see that, yeah.
That's fun. That's cool. I'll give him that, but not much else.
Sure thing. We have no games to pick from the Big 12 this week. Run through this here quick. Oklahoma State's at BYU. Should be a BYU victory there.
Yep.
Arizona State to Cincinnati. That's an interesting one. That's a sneaky, interesting game, I think.
Give me the Sun Devils, man.
I think so, too. Ride the hot hand. Houston at Kansas. That'll be fun.
That's a great basketball game.
Yes, it is. Can they play basketball instead? Yeah. Colorado at Arizona. Baylor heads to Texas Tech. I mean, is this Dave Aranda's? We keep on saying it. I mean, I
thought he was going to be gone in Ames,
I thought
dude.
so, too. Still around, man. They had a bye last week. Maybe they'll have some crazy resurgence. I kind of doubt it.
No.
K-State at West Virginia. So West Virginia back-to-back home games against good teams. And then TCU at Utah for a little Big 12 after dark to round out the slate this week. Shall we pick some games, Casey?
We shall.
All right.
Only 3. Caleb had a big bounce back week. He alluded to it at the intro of the pod. He's now up 1 game. We're both sub 500. Neither of us could go over 500 this week, but it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish. So we got three games, all of them top 25 matchups. We're gonna start with number 7 Bama going to number 11 Tennessee.
Yeah, this is interesting, dude. I mean, the roller coaster of emotions in Tuscaloosa over the last 3 weeks has been just insane, dude. From beating Georgia to losing to Vanderbilt to almost losing to South Carolina has just been unbelievable. Now you go to Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. Tennessee obviously had that loss against Arkansas, barely beat Florida this past week. So these are 2 teams right now that are kind of under some heat, right?
Yeah.
They're getting a lot of heat from the national pundits. Last time this game happened, it was that historic Tennessee victory at Neyland Stadium. We watched it together, Casey, before homecoming, I think, our senior year.
Was that really the last time this was played?
Yeah. Well, last time it was at
Neyland.
last time it was at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because they, I think, played last year, and I think Alabama won in Tuscaloosa.
Correct.
I'll go with the Vols here. I'm
right.
gonna take the home team. I'm giving them the victory again. Go Orange.
Yep. No, that's a fair pick. I can see why. I'm going to pick Bama. DeBoer's really got to make a statement soon. He's kind of under fire from some of the Bama fans, wearing a T-shirt on the sidelines, losing to Vandy. Things aren't going as smoothly as really hoped in Tuscaloosa right now, but I'm not going to put anything past them. Jalen Milroe is without a doubt a top 3 quarterback. They have arguably one of the greatest receiver prospects we may ever see in Ryan Williams, who, by the way, he's only 17. I don't know if you know that. They still talk about it. I thought we were past this.
He's only 7. Really?
Wow. I had no clue.
None of us knew.
This should be a fun game, though. We will definitely be tuned into this one. And it's by far the second best game of the day. So,
yes,
on its own time slot, too, I believe. I don't have it pulled up right now. Is this an early game?
That's a great question. I also am not sure.
I forgot to write it.
Looks like it's a 2:30 kick. Yeah, that ABC 2:30 kick.
Our second game is also a 2:30 kick, so what a great segue into somehow still ranked Michigan going to number 22 Illinois.
It's all in the name, man. It's unbelievable. Give me the Illini here. I like the home team. I like the Illini with the victory. Luke Altmaier's playing some good football right now. He's playing some really good football. I'm going to take him here. I think this Michigan team is struggling to find an identity, and Illinois, this is a big game for them against the brand. I'm going to go with the Illini.
Yeah, no, that is a fantastic pick, and for every reason that you just said, I'm going to pick Michigan because I don't know why. There was something about it. This when I was writing these games down, I was like, I don't like this Michigan team one bit. I've not heard good things about them. Illinois, they're heated up. Michigan's just been told they don't deserve anything right now, and I feel like this is when Michigan strives best, is when they're told you shouldn't be where you are. You're not as good as you are. Granted, it's a different coaching staff. Can they handle the reins here? But this win would be like, well, we deserve to be here, actually. And that's kind of what they need to turn the season around, gone downhill since that Washington game. Give me Michigan. You got to turn it around at some point. Why not now?
You know what? You're exactly right. College football's a weird sport.
Yeah.
Weird stuff happens all the time.
Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
They sure as heck did. Yep. And good for them.
Yeah. And, man, what a game we have to end this off. Number 1, Texas will be hosting number 5, Georgia. Texas coming off of an absolute slaughtering, and I don't even know if you could call that a rivalry game against Oklahoma. Just pitiful to watch.
Yeah, really, really bad. And I think that's kind of a sign of the times for Oklahoma right now. I think that's a reeling program. I don't know how much longer. Brent Venables, his leash is pretty tight right now.
Yeah.
In terms of what he can do. It's still a good program. They're still Oklahoma. They still have a lot of money down there and the brand, but I think Texas has really retaken that, the better team in that rivalry. Because Oklahoma had it for a while there, but Texas is back, and I think they win here at DKR. If this was a home game for Georgia, I'd reconsider it a lot, but I don't know, man. You sent me that video of Kirby Smart just like
pushing
almost,
a player.
Just
I
bodying.
was so confused.
That was the weirdest thing ever. Honestly, that plays into this pick for me because I think that is a real culture problem in Georgia right now. More and more guys getting arrested all the time. It's like, how does this keep happening? Give me Texas.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to pick Texas as well. We will stay the same on one pick. I thought about taking Georgia. Georgia's always talented. Is this kind of the welcome to the SEC moment for Texas was in the back of my head. But, man, this Texas team is too talented. Number 1 ranked defense in the nation right now. And they've played good teams and bad teams, so take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Georgia's obviously played Alabama. They've had some experience in this compared to, Texas, Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, this isn't the same Georgia team that I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season or that we have seen in the past couple of years.
And listen, the national pundits won't tell you this, but Texas was a middling, middle of the pack Big 12 team, upper middle of the pack Big 12 team for the last, the better part of the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the moment they enter the SEC, they're just the best team in the league and kind of steamrolling everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
We're just connecting the dots laid out in front of us.
I don't
We're
think enough
reading
people are talking about this right now. Does it just mean more in the SEC?
Would they have one Big 12 championship in football?
Yeah, and about to win the SEC in their first year.
Now they're number 1 overall and favored in the SEC.
It's crazy when you just actually let the facts slap you in the face and you're not Paul Feinbaum and try and
Iowa
skew the
State's a
narrative.
top 10 team. Interesting.
Crazy how it works that way. Ball don't lie.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Let's talk some Big 12 basketball, shall we, Casey Schiessler?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Full transparency here. Casey is a lot more prepared for this than I am. I saw him at work yesterday in our stats class, just going to town
before
his analysis. Before his
Mom,
stats
I was
class.
paying
Of course
attention
he was
in
paying
class.
attention. Yes, yeah, on all of our probability formulas right now in Stat 104.
I gotta lean this up so you can't see my.
Right on. Yeah. So back during April, after the portal closed, Casey and I gave our 16-team, obviously 16-team Big 12 basketball preseason standings. We're going to do a revamped one today now that we know a little bit more than I think we probably did back then. Preseason poll was released last week. Kansas number 1. Iowa State was number 3. Houston was 2. You just kind of go up and down the list. We're not going to read it off all the way, but
no.
We're going to give our own today. Same thing as
we're going to give the correct
April.
one.
Exactly.
One of us will be right.
Like we always are.
Yeah.
So, Casey, I'm going to let you go first. We'll do how we normally do this. Just go back and forth.
16, working our way up, I assume?
Yes. Yep. Let's do it that way.
Yep. And at 16th, I'm going to take the Okie State Cowboys. Granted, first year of Steve Lutz, I think he's a solid coach. He's really good. He's done a very good job rebuilding some of these smaller programs. He's learned under guys like McDermott and Painter as well. But I looked at their roster, and nothing jumped off the chart at me. They've got some solid guys, but I think the more I looked at other teams, I just don't know where they compete and where they fit into this Big 12 right now. Now, I think in 3 years, this Okie State team is going to be a top 6 team because I think Steve Lutz is that good of a rebuilder, and I think he can do that. Top 6 in the Big 12, that is, not nationally. But right now, this is that kind of first-year head coach kind of setting the foundation I'm getting.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be with you on the first pick. So far, so good. Casey and I on the same page. I've got Oklahoma State there, number 16, for essentially the same reason.
Yep.
First-year head coach. There's another first-year head coach on here that I have a little bit higher, but I think Oklahoma State right now it's reeling from the Mike Boynton era, where things were decent for a little bit there. They had some good teams, some tournament teams, but the end was just really bad. Yeah. It was no sugarcoating it. Attendance was really bad. I think they have the means to, make things interesting this year if it comes together, but I think right now the safe bet is have them at last.
Definitely. 15 for me. I'm going to go with Utah. Unfortunately, your entire thing to look forward to was in football now that we're hitting basketball. Granted, the reason I have them above Okie State, it's similar, but they've got a little bit more experience. Myro Little and Caleb Lohner from Baylor, Lawson Lovering from Colorado, and Gabe Madison from Cincy all come in to get minutes. And I really like this. I'm going to butcher his name, and I apologize, but I really like this kid. Mike Shiravjams. He's a really solid player.
I wouldn't know any better either.
I think 6'8", wing, can really shoot the ball well, two-way player. I'm excited to get to see him play a little bit, but I just don't love this. It's another team where I'm like, man, I just want more out of you.
Yeah, I think that's a fine pick. I'm gonna go. My number 15 is Colorado. I'm gonna go with Colorado at number 15. Lost KJ Simpson. That's a big one. Lost him to the league.
I love that guy too.
You were a
huge KJ
You wanted Iowa
Simpson
State
fan.
to, which they were, I think, going after him for a little bit, right? Maybe.
And then he went draft.
Yeah. So lose KJ Simpson. I just don't think they filled that void with enough. This is a team that, had some okay years in the Pac-12 there towards the end, but nothing that really jumps out to me. I got him at number 15.
Yeah, I got Colorado at 14. Man, KJ Simpson, if he would have stuck around for one more year, I think this team legitimately jumps up 4 spots for me. That kid just makes that much of a difference. It's a new-look team from last year. Lost a lot, moved guys around. They're not bad. Julian Hammond's going to lead the team. I think he's a very solid guard. I think he can do a lot with it. I do like Tad Boyle a lot. I will say that. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think he will build up this program. And I think there's a lot of that kind of going around the Big 12 where there's some really good hires coming in for some of these newer teams to kind of set themselves up for success in the future. But you got to set that foundation, of course. And, not every first year is easy. And I think this is going to be a rough one.
Yep, would definitely agree. So we're going to flip-flop on our 15 and 14. I've got Utah at my number 14. Like you, I am a fan of some of these transfers they're bringing in. The two guys from Baylor are both solid. But, very much a new-look team, right? I mean, this is going to be completely different than last year. I just don't know. It's going to be a slow start to the year for them. I think, especially in Big 12 play, they're in for a rude awakening. I think all these new teams are, with the exception of maybe Arizona, and I think even for them too, they might not be ready for the gauntlet. So I'm going to slate them right here. I think, kind of like I said with Oklahoma State, they could make things interesting if things come together, like February or so. But I think the safe bet right now is keep them down low.
Yeah, definitely. We are on to number 13 now.
We're pretty. I mean, I think this is to be expected. I think these bottom few are all
three,
kind of
I think
predictable.
from now up
it gets
until number 4, you can throw things around, and even because we talked a lot about like there's kind of like I don't want to say quadrants. What's the word I'm looking for? There's
tiers.
Like tiers. Yeah. I feel like 13-ish is the last of that bottom tier, and then there's a big middle tier, and then there's a decent-sized first tier. But that's because you could move things around anywhere. And my last team is going to be TCU. I gave you too much faith in football, and maybe that's a reason I'm not giving you any faith in basketball. Not a huge Jamie Dixon fan either. I do like adding Brendan Wenzel from Wyoming. I think he's a solid player. But this team is so young. 7 freshmen or redshirt freshmen currently listed. Micah Robertson should have a solid impact this year. I think he's going to be good. But 7 freshmen in the big – and not even is it just the Big 12. It's the new Big 12 that's added even more talented programs. I think it's going to be tough, especially with a lot of these hostile environments.
I think that is definitely fair. My number 13 is Arizona State. I've got the Sun Devils at number 13 here, and they could certainly prove me wrong. Sure are in football right now. But, again, kind of the same deal. I think that they, just coming from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, we saw what happened to most of the newcomers last year. It's just a tough thing, right? This is a team that is going to be one of the older teams and has got a lot of veteran leadership. I don't know if they really have like the talent to compete with some of these top-end teams in the Big 12. Again, I've said it with pretty much all these teams so far. One that I think could, make things interesting, with that age they have. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep them here for now.
Yep. I have Arizona State at 12. I kind of had a similar thought about them. 9 seniors or grads, but they also have a nice youth influx of 5 true freshmen. That'll be really fun to see kind of how Bobby Hurley goes about that. Like Bobby Hurley a lot. I think this team will start. I think this is a team that'll pull off 1 or 2 big upsets this year, and if I had to take a guess, they're going to be at home too. I think they'll get a good atmosphere around there, but they're not going to be like a top 6 team when it comes tournament time.
Right on. Number 12 for me. Hang on here. I went to a different tab. I got to pull mine up. Number 12 for me is going to be West Virginia. So when I said earlier, another new coach in the conference with the Mountaineers, and then there's also another one we haven't talked about yet as well.
True.
Darren DeVries coming from Drake, local guy, as well as his son Tucker DeVries. I think West Virginia is. This is kind of a program where you can come in and you can be good off the bat. They're not going to contend for the Big 12 in year 1 at all. But I do love Darren DeVries. He's one of my favorite coaches in college basketball, to be honest. I think what he did at Drake was fantastic. I love Tucker as well. And they're bringing in some talent here in year 1 that I think could really mesh up there. And then the thing too about West Virginia is like that's a fan base that's bought in, and if you can like show that the fan base that you can win some games and make things entertaining, they'll show up, and that'll be a tough place to play this year.
Oh, definitely. Morgantown is always a fantastic place to play. I think DeVries is going to do a solid job. I'm not really worried about him.
Oh, Joe Yesufu too. I forgot about him. Yeah.
Joe Yesufu.
It's Jover.
It's Jover is making
For everybody
a
else.
reappearance. Number 11 now, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to throw in that last new coach, Kevin Young, coming over from the the Phoenix Suns. Wow. Slip of the tongue.
Arizona. Phoenix in Arizona.
Yeah, it
Give
is.
you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, no. I don't know why I said Arizona Suns, but coming over from the Phoenix Suns, I think this BYU team is really interesting. They've got some very talented guys on this team. Kanan Catchings might win Freshman of the Year. I am that big on this kid. Dalen Hall returns. He was solid. He gave Iowa State lots of fits when we played down there, so I think he'll be good. Really deep front court, though. Keita, Demon, Mag, Triplet, and Triple. Those are 2 different guys, by the way. I didn't know that until I was reading the roster. This team's they're gonna live in the post,
What
man.
the heck?
Yeah, Triplet and Triple are different people. They're going to live in the post, and a lot of teams are going to have to adjust to that. They're going to be physical. They're going to be really solid defensively, but bringing in an elite scorer like Kanan Catchings, and they're top 5 right now on AJ DeBonsa, who is the number 1 prospect who just moved from, I think he was in California before, to Utah. So that's just something right now. I'm not lining anything up for people, but he very well might be going to BYU from some rumor mills. I think this BYU team, they're going to be solid. It's going to be a fun team to watch. I like some of the players last year. I like some of the players this year, so I'll definitely be tuned in.
All right. I've also got BYU at number 11. I like this hire. I like this Kevin Young hire. I think that transition from Mark Pope could be a little bit tough. He did a really good job there. But I'm with you. I think they are bringing in some good talent. Dallin Hall, obviously a really, really good player. They do lose my boy, Ali Khalifa. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. The big man down there who could knock down a 3 every once in a while. He was a fun player to watch. I enjoyed him. But, yeah, BYU at 11 for me as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They had another guy that I can't think of his name right now. He went to Jackson Robinson.
Oh,
I liked him
he was the 6th man of the year last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now he moved over to Kentucky, and I think he's taken a big step up from what I'm hearing out of there. But I liked him as well. That was a good BYU team last year. I think we kind of undervalued them.
Yeah.
And we might be doing the same this year. Who knows? My number 10, give me West Virginia. Darian DeVries, I think, is the best Big 12 hire of the year. I really like this guy. I like what he can do. He's brought over his son. His son's a good basketball player. Really good basketball player. I think his game will transition well to the Big 12. I think we don't have to worry about that. Joe Yesufu, of course, former Kansas player. Really solid guard. You know, he's been all over, dealt with some health and injury issues. We'll see what happens, but I think he'll be solid. The Jover meme is back. And then Sincere Harris from Illinois. But not only that, DeVries went out and picked up 4 really good freshmen to build around and give some sort of minutes to early on. I really like that. He's shown his commitment to staying long-term because you always got that wonder, it's Tucker's last year. Is this going to be like 1 year? And then he kind of steps back a little bit and then kind of steps back into the light after another year or so. But no, he's committed to this team, and I think he's a perfect fit for the Mountaineers. But still, year 1, not going to overvalue him at all. Tough league. Give me him at 10.
All right. 10 for me. I've got him a little bit higher than you. It is the TCU Horned Frogs. I think for the only reason that I actually I am a fan of Jamie Dixon. I think he is a decent coach. He's had some good years in the Big 12. Yeah, I don't know. TCU's just they're always just such a
weird team.
Middle of the pack Big 12. Like they're always going to be on the bubble, either on one side or the other, just kind of there, man. Like they might slide into the top 25 and just sit there for a couple weeks and then bounce out like they did each of the last several seasons.
They'll like pull up one big upset and then get blown out at home by like a bottom tier team.
I will say one of the reasons I do have them up here as well is because their schedule I think is decently favorable. The home and homes they got are against all pretty like not daunting teams. They don't have to play Iowa State twice. They don't have to play Kansas twice. They don't have to play Houston twice. I think the best team they play twice is Baylor. So yeah, I think their schedule's decent, but yeah, I've got them sitting right there.
Definitely. My number 9 is going to be Kansas State. Once again, I'm going to probably undervalue them You went out and spent $2 million on Coleman Hawkins. Why did you spend $2 million on him? That is a guy that
I don't know, dude. That's more expensive than the entire Iowa State basketball team.
I know. And from one guy who was he was Big Ten all first team, and he did nothing when it came to tournament play. He got carried by the guy who's now on the Timberwolves. I'm blanking on the name.
I don't know.
Gosh, I'm blanking. I should remember that. I can picture him. I have to find this out. Terrence Shannon Jr. Oh my goodness, former Texas Tech guard. Goes to Illinois after everything, gets drafted. Who's actually been balling out for the Timberwolves a little bit. He's been fun to watch. Can't say they're all right. I really like this Achor pickup from Utah State. And maybe that's just because I'm a huge mid-major fan, but I think Achor is going to be a sleeper to watch in
elite name.
The Big 12. Oh, all the way. Very tall roster as well. I feel like when I looked at it, I saw a lot more like 6'7", 6'8" guys than I did across other rosters. But again, only 14 players listed, which I think is second smallest, tied with Iowa State. So not a ton of depth I saw, but some solid players, some guys I really like, but nothing jumps out at me right now.
All right. Decent pick. Number 9 here, right? That's what we're on. Number 9 for me is going to be the Johnny Dawkins-led Central Florida Knights. I think this team improves a lot from year 1 to year 2 in the Big 12 Conference. Mikey Williams, Dior Johnson, 2 really, really good players. Brought in some good, solid transfers as well. Not necessarily like guys that are coming from other like
they're really
Power
good
4,
mid-major players.
Power 5, yeah, exactly. Good mid-major guys for sure that they're bringing in. I think this team makes a step and is also one where I think they could really – I might be undervaluing them here at number 9, but I like Johnny Dawkins. I like the talent they have. I just couldn't really justify putting them over anybody else.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. My number 8, I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I think I'm a little bit lower on them than the national narrative is from what I'm seeing.
Same here.
And it's not because I don't like this team. I really like what they're doing there. I think that Wes Miller is going to do good over there. And I am interested to see how they play. They also might have the greatest name in college basketball in Jizzle James. Definitely up there. Really solid two-way guards. They got some experience. Transfer pickup, C.J. Frederick from Kentucky, Ayrton Page from USC, Dylan Mitchell from Texas, Simas Lukosius from Butler. I think it's a solid team. Like, don't get me wrong, I think they're going to be a great two-way team. They're going to be a contender deep in the tournament, but I don't think it's a team that night in and night out you can get great games from. I think you're going to get some – in the right days, you're going to get some really tough matchups against really good teams, and on the wrong days, you're going to get blown out. I think they're going to win more than some other teams. I think the talent is there more than some other teams, but I just don't think it's enough right
now. Yes, I also have Cincinnati as my number 8 team, and I'm with you as well. I think I'm lower than most people are. What were they, like 17th or 18th in KenPom? I mean, they're high.
Their KenPom's high.
They're
I think
a metrics darling
like
right now.
6th in preseason Big 12.
Something like that, yeah.
So we're just like slightly under.
6, yes. Wow, that's impressive. And I think I had them really low in my April one. But, yeah, no, this is a good team. Wes Miller's a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Good talent. Their schedule isn't bad. I just took a look at it, so it could be a lot worse. But I also think like this is still kind of you're still building this thing, and I'm not completely ready to buy in yet.
Definitely. I actually didn't take schedule into account much when I looked at this.
I mean,
I looked at
tough.
schedules, but
I'm just kind of glancing right now just to see if there's anything that like
jumps
really
out.
stands out. Yeah.
That's fair. I kind of went talent and gut were kind of my go-tos, which usually are mostly guts. It's like 60% gut, 40% talent. So
I think with this Big 12 too, like with the schedule thing, it pretty much all evens out at the end of the day.
Yeah,
like there's some that are harder than others, but
it's not by like 4 or 5 games.
The football's
you might win 1 or 2
right
extra, which it's beneficial and it'll matter at the end of the day. But it's not
Yeah.
going to impact seeding too much.
And the good teams will still fare just fine.
The best will still be 1 and 2. I don't think we got to worry about that.
Yeah.
Number 7, correct?
Yes.
My number 7 is UCF. I do really like this team a lot. They're probably going to be one of the most polar teams in my eyes. They're either going to be fantastic or they're going to be really bad, and it's going to be a game-to-game basis. I will say, though, Johnny Dawkins, like him a lot. I think he's doing interesting things over there, adding Mikey Williams and Dior Johnson. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. I like the guys. I loved them growing up. They've had off-the-court stuff. Whatever happens, happens. I think they're great basketball players, though. I think these mid-major pickups are huge. Keyshawn Hall, 17-8 at George Mason. Jordan Ivy Curry, 17-5 and 3 at UTSA. Dallin Coleman averaged 1 steal a game at Georgia Tech as well. Bring back Jalen Sellers. He was all Big 12 honorable mention last year with 16, 4, 1, and 1 steal. I think it's a really solid 5 there, and I haven't even mentioned some of these younger guys and the posts at all. So I think this team, they're going to be solid. I think they're going to be scrappy and a really good defensive team. This team is going to be a fun one to watch.
All right. Number 7 for me is going to be the Kansas State Wildcats.
For some reason, I thought you were about to say Kansas there, and I was about to be like, whoa.
Yeah, no, I wish I had him lower. I think I do believe in them this year.
I wish I had him lower.
I do wish I did. Jerome Tang, I think last year was a really weird year where things just kind of went off the rails. You had that really tough – he was kind of dealt a bad hand with the whole deal and the president limiting and taking away some of the guys from the roster. I forget even who it was, but I think this is a rebuilt team. I also am with you on why would you spend this much money on Coleman Hawkins, but I just kind of get the sense that this team has a big bounce-back year. I think they are going to play with some fire after a bad season last year, and, got him number 7.
My number 6 and my second favorite coach in the Big 12, Grant McCasland of Texas Tech. I love this team, man. I love everything they do. I've watched a ton of their off the court. I've watched a ton of their practices kind of heading into my season, and there's not a thing I don't like about this guy. I love him so much. Great defensive coach. I'm excited to see this. Really good forwards, JT Toppin, Kevin Overton. Picked up 6'11" transfer Federico from Pitt. It's not as good as that roster that made the deep run into the national championship, I will say. The guards aren't as talented. They can't shoot the ball as well. But you know what this team is going to give you. And, I mean, under the past 3 different coaches, they've been fantastic defensively. And I think this is another great defensive team. Lubbock is going to be absolutely through the roof like it always is. One of the better places to play in the Big 12, and I got faith in this team.
I also have the Red Raiders in number 6, and I am with you that Grant McCasland is a fantastic coach. People don't talk enough about the improvement just in 1 year under him. They were bad in that final year with chemistry teacher. What was his name? Mark Adams. Yeah. What was it? The defense never rests, right?
Defense never rests. Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace, Mark Adams. He's still alive.
He's still alive.
Yes, he just got fired.
Yeah.
And had some other stuff going on too.
Yeah.
No, but
great defensive coach as well, though.
Yes, and Grant McCasland. Grant McCasland took Texas Tech to they finished 4th in the Big 12 last year. I think they finished 4th because they got beat by Houston. I think in the semifinals of the Big 12 tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of them. Big fan of the roster they have. I'm with you. I think this team 6 is safe right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they could push their way up into that top 4 at some point.
If you add just a little bit more talent to this team, they could be arguably a top 3 team right now, and that's saying something. So hopefully they do not fall short this year, and everything blows up in our face. My number 5, another team I really love. I would say my 1 through 6, I could flip anyone and genuinely be comfortable with it and explain it to some degree. My number 5, give me Arizona. Caleb Love is still playing basketball, not even the longest tenured guy on the list. We'll get to that more later. I really like Trey Townsend, man, from Oklahoma. this kid is good. I wanted to see where he goes. And the fact he comes to Arizona, he comes to the Big 12 to learn under Tommy Lloyd. He's already been fantastic in secret scrimmages. Really good size and speed recipe from Tommy Lloyd that he's got among his roster. KJ Lawson, second season, and they got Carter Bryant, who I think is a talented freshman. He's going to get good minutes. We know what Tommy Lloyd does. He builds great rosters. He gets a lot of wins, and he falls short in March Madness and ruins my bracket every year because I overvalue his teams.
Tommy Lloyd, grab your passport, as our good pal John Rothstein says with his catchphrases. I've also got Arizona at 5 here, so back-to-back 5 and 6 are the same for us. I'm with you. This is a good mix of veteran guys and young, talented guys. I think it won't be to the same degree. I think they could enter a bit of a point during the Big 12 season, like late January, early February, where they kind of start to slow down and you're playing really good teams on a night-in, night-out basis, where it's like, we've never done that before. But I think at the end of the day, they regroup in late March and do finish in the top 5. So, yes, 5 for me as well.
Yeah, and hopefully they can go further in March Madness because I always have them somewhere near the Final Four, and they never make it out of the first round. I'll never forget when
Princeton won,
I had them winning it all that year.
Oh, boy.
And they were, like the first or second game of March Madness, and my bracket was
it was
ruined.
quick. It was very quick.
It was
It ruins your entire weekend.
It ruined my entire experience of college basketball for a little bit. My number 4, and to some shock and awe in the crowd, I'm going to put Iowa State. I have a strategy behind this.
Okay.
I undervalued them in football. I put them at 4 or 5.
I think you had them at 5. I had them at 4.
Mm-hmm. And now look at where we are.
Okay.
I'm just going to say that, but I also rank them right here. Top 2 in returning production in the nation. Top 2 in defensive rankings on KenPom. A very new front court, which I haven't fallen in love with yet. We'll see as time goes by. I'm really interested to see how much they involve Nojis. I think he's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's interesting.
My worry, and it's the same thing I touched on earlier, it's with bringing back so much of the same things. How much have teams caught up to them? And how much have they learned? Because now you have a full year of film to go off of for these guys. And I know assistant coaches and scouting guys have been looking at these videos for a year now. And they've had time to analyze and had time to go after these. Iowa State's got to take that step up, man. And I don't think their transfer portal really did that for them, where they brought in an X factor. I think they were solid in the portal. I think Nojis is good, but I think it's so deep that he's not going to get involved much, which I'm really worried about. I like this team. I love what this program is doing. I love Otts as a head coach, but I'm a little worried for this year that it just isn't enough, and there's going to be a little bit of underwhelming sense.
I think that's fair. I think the front court thing is a real thing, because the guys you had for the last 2 or 3 years all, developed so much over the time in Ames, and now you bring in an entirely new crop of big men down low, and it's like, the guard trio you have is
fantastic,
elite, one of the best in the nation.
You got probably 4 or 5 guards deep that are really good.
Yeah, you throw like Milan Momcilovic in there as well, and see what Noyes can do. Yes, I'll get to that in a bit. My number 4 is Baylor. I got the Baylor Bears, Scott Drew and company. This is going to be a regrouped Baylor team. And granted, they were still good last year, but I think they could be even better. And here's the thing about this is, like, the top 5 of the Big 12 is so good. Do people realize how good these teams are that we're talking about right now? Like, Arizona going to finish,
top 10
in the conference. Yeah, they're a top 10 team right now nationally. Really good basketball teams. I got Baylor at 4. I love what they bring in. Jeremy Roach, he's going to be insane. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the conference.
I think he's newcomer of the year.
VJ Edgecombe. This team is going to be really good. I got him outside the top 3.
Yep. No, that's fair. My number 3 is going to be Houston. I love everything Sampson's doing down there. I love this team. They will always be fantastic. In my eyes, they're going to be a 2 or 3 seed in March Madness, and you can't tell me otherwise. I just think there are a couple teams a little bit better that are going to get a couple more wins here and there. Cryer, Uzan, Roberts, Sharp all return. Really solid. They've got some good freshman additions. it's going to be a good team. It's going to be a Houston team, and that's all I have to say. Like, it's nothing out of the ordinary for them. It's going to be the same recipe as always, and it's going to work like always.
All right, perfect. My number 3 is going to be the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm going to go with the Clones at number 3. And I'm sure you can probably guess at this point that I am just going to chalk for the top 5, the same thing that the Big 12 preseason poll did. But I do agree with it for the most part, so spoiler alert. Iowa State number 3 for me. I think I'm a little bit higher than maybe you are, but it's 4 and 3. Right?
I mean, and in the Big 12, that's a 1-game difference.
Exactly. It is very, very minimal, I should say. I think the front court thing is a real deal, and I think that I think Iowa State's backcourt is, in my opinion, better than Houston's, but the front court, Houston has that one by a bit larger of a margin with Jawan Roberts and all those guys.
I agree with
that.
So
I think that's why I'd give the edge to Houston in this case. But I think Iowa State, this is a team that has an identity. This is a team that brings back just elite veteran leadership, really, really good in the backcourt. If Milan Momcilovic will have upgraded his game to the next level and can knock down that 3 at an even higher clip this year,
definitely
from year 1 to year 2. I also think a big X factor is Nate Heisey, the transfer from Northern Iowa. I think he could be a lot better than people are talking about. If those two guys end up being better than, and you can't really quantify that, but than we're expecting right now.
Yeah.
I think that's what elevates Iowa State even more. Those are the 2 X factors for me.
No, I would definitely agree with that. So then we are into the top 2. My number 2, it is a team I'm very, very high on this year. In my eyes, they're a 1 seed heading into March Madness. Give me Baylor. Nunn and Roach might be the best backcourt in the conference. Better than my 1 seed. Might be. I really can't tell. Roach is going to win Newcomer of the Year. VJ Edgecombe's going to win Freshman of the Year. This team is talented. Scott Drew is a very good coach. This is very reminiscent of this national championship team for me. I think this team is that caliber of good once again.
Yeah. I think Scott Drew, this is their best chance at winning a national championship since they did back in that 2020-2021 season.
Yeah.
This team is really, really loaded. Number 2 for me is going to be Houston. Just love what they bring back. I mean, you lose Jamal Shed, obviously. You can't replace a guy like that.
No.
But LJ Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, that's an elite backcourt. And then Jawan Roberts up there in the post. He's going to be a lot better this year.
He might be the best post in the Big 12.
I wouldn't deny it, man. He was really, really good and battled some injuries last year too.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was healthy, he was one of the best in the conference, one of the best in the nation. Cougars number 2 for me.
Definitely. And number 1 then for both of us, and I really didn't want to do this. I hate putting Kansas first. I don't want to do it. I don't want them to have the pressure of being first. I don't want to feel like...
I'll say it for you, man. You just have to this year.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What they brought in is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're not my number 1 national team. They're number 2 for me.
Who would number 1 nationally be?
Dude, it's got to be this Duke roster. This Duke team's so good. And I say that knowing how much I love this Kansas team. They needed depth in 3-point shooting, went out and got it. This might be the most talented roster ever. Issue is preseason number 1 Bill Self teams never pan out. He has never gone past the second round when being preseason number 1. So take whatever out of that you want to. There's talent and depth everywhere. I love Rakis Passmore and Flory Badunga, this freshman class. The transfers, I can't talk good enough about. They've got A.J. Storr. Really like Rylan Griffin. I think he's going to be a fun guy to watch. And I could keep going on and on. But I'm going to be honest, I don't want to. I'm so nervous and so excited for this team. But there's...
Just don't do what the football team did.
No.
Right?
And I think that's just sitting in the back of my mind right now. This team they're more talented by far, and they don't have the question marks that the football team has. But at the end of the day, it's still the Big 12. Anything can still happen, and I don't know. I feel like I'm stepping on pins and needles just saying Kansas at 1.
Well, I'll be there right with you because I also have them at 1, right? Just like you talked about, and you hit it all. You hit pretty much the nail on the head already, right? This team is just so loaded, and they fixed the two things that they didn't have last year, which was three-point shooting. Like, the only guy who could knock one down was Johnny Furphy, and then Kevin McCullough every once in a while.
If he was healthy.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. So you bring that in, and you bring in depth, because at certain times last year, it was just a starting five, and that was it. And obviously you bring back Hunter Dickinson, which I think underperformed a little bit last year, but was still really, really good.
Yeah.
And you bring back DeJuan Harris for his 90th season as well with Kansas. I mean, this team is just really good across the board. Number one for me too. So look at that. There's your preseason Big 12 standings.
Pretty similar.
It wasn't that different really at all across the board.
A couple
I think
here and there.
I was a little bit higher on TCU and K-State. You were a little bit higher on Central Florida.
West Virginia.
A little bit higher on West Virginia.
A little bit higher on BYU.
Yes. But, I'd love to check back on this once the season's over and see how right we were.
I hope, for our sake, one of us was perfect, because that means Kansas is first. Iowa State's right up there as well. So
we'll take that. All right, let's finish it out with the weekly 3-for-3 segment here. How about it?
Let's do it. I'll get it kicked off. NBA game down in Des Moines, Iowa. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Heard a lot of good things about it. Was the Minnesota Timberwolves 76ers games. My Timberwolves got the victory. Looks good. But I just thought it was great for the city. I thought it was great for the state. I thought it was great for basketball as a whole. Iowa's never had a professional, major professional team. They have AAA baseball. They've got the G League affiliate of the Timberwolves. But they haven't had their own major team, and I thought this was a great game to do. Fun atmosphere, good in preseason. So,
all right, yeah, I'm with you on that. That's good stuff. My number 3. Shout out both of our secondary teams, Army and Navy.
Yeah,
ranked for the first time since 1960. Well, both at the same time. Both of these teams were ranked at the same time for the first time since 1960. This is awesome to watch. Both teams 6-0, both competing for that, G5. at-large bid from the G5. This is really fun to watch. Brian Newberry and Jeff Monken should both be Coach of the Year candidates right now. These teams are great. I can't wait for that December game. Now, I will say, Army, both these teams, number 1 and number 2 in terms of rushing yards per game in the nation. Army does have the edge, though, rushing for 369 yards per game.
That's all right.
It's just
that's not bad.
Crazy, dude. And I saw as well that 3 of their offensive linemen are 3 of the top 5 highest graded O linemen on Pro Football Focus up to this point. Just bruisers, man.
There we go. That's all we love to hear.
But Army and Navy, shout out both of our squads.
There we go.
Wholesome content.
Caleb, what do you know about the World Conquer Championships?
I don't know if I want to know.
Do you know what a conquer is?
Like you conquer like a city?
No, it's I think it's like a type of nut, like a tree nut or something like that. So the World Conquer Championships.
Is it spelled conquer like
Conker?
Okay.
But it looks like a giant like hazelnut or something. I don't really know. Like in Ice Age, the nut that like Scrat holds up.
Yes.
It looks kind of like one of those.
Okay.
Or like the inside of a peach.
Sure.
Kind of like that. World Conquer Championships tournament held annually second Sunday in October in the county of Northamptonshire, England. 2 players use a conker threaded onto a string and take turns striking the others until it's shattered. Well, there's some slight controversy in this year's tournament as the champion, 82-year-old David Jenkins, who got his first win, and he's been competing since 1977. He's also nicknamed the King Conker for anyone interested, was found with a conker with the that's inside was metal in his pocket. Now, they are investigating it. He is alleging it was steel. He is alleging that it was just for jokes and it was never used. They're going back through all of the video footage from the tournament to make sure of that. But as of right now, the American who actually moved over to England not super long ago, is under investigation, and his win may be in jeopardy.
Wow.
What happened to the sport we love?
What happened to Conquer?
Yeah.
The one honest sport out there. Just
It's
out the
nothing
window.
sacred.
Nope. Wow. That might take the number one at all time. Casey 3-for-3 list. I mean, that's up there, dude. Conquer. My number 2. So USC football does this thing where you can pay like $1,500 to run out of the tunnel with the team at games. And this Penn State fan this weekend decided to fork over a nice little lump sum, $1,500. I think it's something around that.
Yeah, I think it's between 14 and 1800, but for the game.
To run out onto the field with USC and all their fans and film the entire thing. And it was just hilarious. You can go watch it on Twitter if you haven't seen it yet. People are listening, but I thought it was so funny.
Definitely. My number 1, kind of on a somber note here. UNC football player Tylee Kraft passes away from rare lung cancer at the age of 23. He was a great kid. A lot of good stuff, as Mac Brown has gone on and on about him. He's been battling cancer for 2.5 years, some really, really rare lung cancer. And they had actually honored him. I think it was either that game or a game before, and he ended up passing away just before the game, and the team found out afterwards. So just really sorry to hear that. Obviously, it sucks to hear, but yeah, during Saturday's football game, which also happened to be the team's cancer awareness game. So
wow, yeah, dang, that's
yeah.
I was not aware of that. I hadn't heard of that at all.
Yeah, unfortunate. Obviously, thoughts and prayers are with the family and the program, of course.
Yeah, definitely cheering for North Carolina the rest of the way.
Definitely.
After hearing that, good stuff. My number 1. Just going to give a shout-out to my Royals. They did lose last week in the ALDS against the Yankees. Unfortunately, could not get one in Kansas City to keep the series going, take it to Game 5. Lost in 4. Elite season, though. Great season. Finally back. It took like 10 years to get back in the playoffs. This team is back, though. Bobby Witt Jr., if he can not choke in the playoffs next year, they could go to the World Series. I firmly believe that. So, go Royals. But that'll do it for today.
That will.
Good pod. Good long pod. Anything else, Casey, before we head out?
No, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. You know, Royals next year will be the 3rd best team in the AL behind the Yankees and the Orioles. Obviously.
I suppose. He's Casey Schiesler. My name is Caleb Polking. First one on YouTube, by the way. This is going on YouTube.
This one is?
Wave at the camera. Casey.
Hi.
Yeah, Casey, wave at the camera as well.
Hold on. It's got to switch back over to me. There we go.
Good job. Let's go. All right. First one on YouTube. Finally, it's taken like a year and a half for us to actually get this thing on YouTube, but this will be on it. You can follow us. I think it's, oh gosh. We'll link it in the podcast feed as well if you're listening.
Yeah.
But I want to say it's like just the rundown with Caleb and Casey. If you look that up, you'll find it. But that's all for us today. Catch you guys next week.